Hello, everybody, and welcome to Quantum Leap Revisited, a show that we do once a week where we talk about the classic series Quantum Leap, starring Scott Bakula and Dean Stockwell. And today we're talking about the second episode of Season 5, also known as Lee Harvey Oswald Part 2. Initially, when it aired, it was actually one episode of 2 hours, so it was technically one and not split up into two. But ever since that first airing, when they did that, and especially through syndication and DVD collections, it's always been considered two different episodes. So that's why last week we talked about part one, and this week we're going to talk about part two. And with me, as always, is this distinguished panel of gentlemen. With me right here to my, I guess, left would be Ro from the Sacrif Podcast, also known as Ro from the Sacrif Scuttlebutt Podcast, also known as Ro, the founder of the Red 5 Network, which is a network of podcasters. If you're not familiar with what Ro does, you should follow him on all social media. And in addition to that, you should check out his podcast because they're always available on Apple Music, on Amazon, and Spotify, and all those good things. He's a broadcast news veteran, also knows a lot about the behind the scenes of productions. How's it going, Ro?
Going fantastic. Good to be here, finally.
Yes, yes. Today was a strange day. There were a lot of kind of strange technical things going on, but we want
Wasn't
to.
our fault. Blame Elon.
It wasn't our fault. It genuinely wasn't, and we did the best we could to kind of put it all together. So we are happy that we're here and that you guys are here with us. Of course, with us is also Nick, also known as the Backyard Tardis. Nick himself also has his channel, Backyard Tardis, where he talks about pop culture, and he's a member of the Red 5 Network, which is the network of podcasters that Ro founded. In addition to that, Nick is a minister at his local church. He's also his town's local locksmith. He's also a consultant to the sheriff and the fire department. And in addition to that, he has his own ranch where he raises goats. And he's an expert in science fiction. What's up, Nick?
Not much. Glad to be here, even if it's not a favorite episode of mine, but looking forward to talking about it.
It is a rather strange episode. I mean, the thing is that I think we talked a lot about it last time, about some of our thoughts on this episode. And I think that one of the conclusions we had is that it was really kind of a passion / almost vanity episode for series creator Donald P. Belisario. Now, I have a lot of great things to say about Donald P. Belisario and his work on Quantum Leap, and in general, just a very competent producer that's done a lot of very notable things in the industry. And it's rare that I don't know if to say criticism, but I think that he used this show as some kind of platform, I would say, to sort of get some kind of message that he wanted to get out there. And he doesn't often do that, if at all. Personally, I wouldn't have done that if I were him, but I understand that he had a personal story that he actually knew Lee Harvey Oswald because he spent time on a base that Lee Harvey Oswald was at. And this was him weighing in and saying what he thought about Oswald, what he thought about JFK, and he's really not even leaving it up to discussion. He's just explaining to you his opinion, and you better accept his opinion. And he's almost bending the lore and mythology of the show to sort of suit whatever it is that he's trying to do here, almost like disregarding what this show even is, as long as he could show his message. That's my opinion, at least.
I think that's not wrong. I think I saw a lot of that while I was watching the second half. It was, I called it a fish out of water, and usually it's a fish out of water, story wise, but this is kind of a fish out of water behind the scenes. It just didn't seem like a Quantum Leap episode. It was almost like a weird documentary about Lee Harvey Oswald in a way, which we'll talk about it for sure. But
I like this comment here. Tex Rogers agrees with Price. That's probably why I liked it. Don B does a lot of good stuff, but this episode was an error, and Mary White says absolutely no conspiracies, and that's the thing that they're like, there's no conspiracies. Lisa Catrine agrees. Hey everyone, hey Storm King. Nice
Well,
to-
often you'll see something like this when you have a person that knows or had some personal dealing with a person that didn't go right, and then there's a scandal or maybe a cover up or something because of maybe that one little interaction you have with him. Sometimes you're tainted to believe or don't believe, and so this very much feels like he's very much upset about the fact that um, there's all these theories that he's like, no, I'm 100%, I know this guy, I totally believe he did it, and so I want to set the straight. And Ro is someone who you've talked often about being a fan of JFK and or like the everything around this, I should say. Um, Part of that interests you is the mystery, right?
Yeah. Part of it, really, obviously, the preoccupation of the conspiracies, the preoccupation with the general public as to how this could have happened, in our lifetime. I think the interest to me is really the mystery that is instilled in this, to use that the line in the Oliver Stone movie. It's a question inside of an enigma, inside of a mystery, all that stuff. So that to me is fascinating. I just feel like these two episodes, it was an indulgence by Belisario to play around with conjecture. It seemed a little choppy and nonsensical in a way, and it was just. I don't feel like I was watching an episode of Quantum Leap. I think maybe at the end they were trying something new, and I'll ask you guys once we get to that point. But I think at that point it was too little, too late. The rest of the series, or the rest of the two episodes, were just odd, strange.
Yeah, and it did definitely, like, it went through always an abusive, aggressive, mean man to he's a flirt and he's a communist, but a communist idealist, which is usually what we have here in America. Is like ones look at the uh, communist model on paper and they that wouldn't that be great if we all and so he's out there, he's with flyers, he's but then the next moment he's acting like he is a dictator and like he is
Mm-hmm.
uh sometimes like kind of the traditional, like, oh, I'm man dominating, very different things,
Yeah.
but it's always negative, it's always something that kind of puts him in it's a weird thing.
Well, and I think that's Belisario's indulgence. And I think the scenario where supposedly he met him, while they were serving together in that little scene in the first episode last week. I think Belisario must have gotten some sort of vibe, some sort of an image of who Lee Harvey Oswald was during that encounter, that he decided to kind of write this as a response to his feelings. It almost felt like therapeutic in a way. Like, this is how I feel about this guy. It almost feels like he was very offended at the fact that this guy had some sort of communist propaganda, anti-American propaganda on hand, and this was kind of his response, because obviously it didn't show Oswald in a good light, and it's difficult to do so, now, obviously, after the fact. But this one kind of doubled down on the character, the bad characterization of Lee Harvey Oswald in a way that was very personal to Belisario.
I understand that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to say something I'm going to regret saying. There is a story happening in the news now, and I'd say that very recently, somebody was mentioned regarding something, and it's something that a lot of people are talking about, but I don't want to say anymore. And somebody who sort of speaking about a certain topic, or a name came up that's relative to some kind of scandal story, and I have actually met that person before. So for me, when I see like quotes from that person, I'm kind of looking at it from a different perspective because I've actually met that person before. When I say met, it's actually somebody that I've actually been involved in some work related thing that person was involved in. It's more than just that I met him once and exchanged a few words with him, if you understand what I'm saying. And when you see this person, you kind of see him appear in the media or whatever it is. I'm thinking to myself, well, I met this guy and I have a kind of different impression, or my own impression of him. So I thought about that, and then I thought about Donnie P and how he felt. And I understand, that he has his own personal opinions, but at the same time, he has a show to run. He has a business to run. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
And that's
I'm
what makes
conflicted
that's what
about
made
it.
it odd. That's what made it odd watching this episode, because I know it was kind of like a commentary on whatever it is that he believed, but I don't think it was the right way of maneuvering that statement within the premise of the show, because it just threw it completely out of whack.
Lisa Katryan didn't like the scene where Al is trying to convince Sam to self-delete himself, and I had an issue with that too. I was happy that at least there was a time jump, so we didn't have to go through with it. But you know what? Without further ado, we're gonna just throw in this this episode into our. Oh, wait a second. Yes, I think I got it. JFK.
The goat's okay, Nick?
The ghosts are okay.
We got a new goat operator, and some of the family have chosen now to spend their time programming it. And it's like right outside my van. So if you hear a lot of beeping, that's what's going on.
And Tex just wants to remind you to start with Reel 1.
Yes, I'm starting with Reel 1 because I had almost a glitch. I almost started with Reel 2.
Oh no. And embiggen it.
Tex wouldn't have liked that. Yes, I have to embiggen it too. Okay, so we're here, and it starts off theorizing that one could jump within his own lifetime. Blah, 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 blah.
I absolutely hate this opening, by the way. The new
Yeah,
music,
yeah.
the new...
Yeah,
I was hoping that another week it would start to grow on me. Maybe it will by the end of the season,
Yeah.
but no.
will be the leap home. But then it just goes to the song. He doesn't even. In this one, they're not doing that. They're just like, do 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 do. It's kind of annoying.
Yeah, very annoying, yeah.
It sounds like the original one had this kind of throwback cheesy 80s, a little bit of a cheesy 80s vibe, but in a good way. And this
Yeah.
is like everything that's wrong with like early 90s like sound and crap.
Yeah.
And really it kind of, I don't know what they wanted here. I think that they're like, make it action packed, make it more like, happening. And I feel like it's trying to take something that doesn't need to be a certain way and force it to be a certain way. Again, there's this title with a JFK thing and all that stuff. That
Real fast, Lisa says that she heard it was Scott's idea to change up the music.
Really?
Oh, that's interesting.
That is, I guess Donnie P isn't the only person who did a fumble here. I guess Scott was fumbling as well. This is just a recap, like,
yeah,
they're showing the thing with the last episode. And then this is the part where he arrives. We already saw the beginning of it, that he arrived at this Russian embassy and he wanted to give them secrets.
This is the
doing the recap.
Yeah.
However, I will like to say, because me and Script were talking about the Russian actor there, in MacGyver, and Script had thought it was the pilot. It was actually the penultimate episode of the first season of MacGyver that he was in.
Oh,
He had been, and it was also a political thing because he had been put in a Russian mental asylum for speaking out against the government, and MacGyver had to go extract him.
Marla Shandoff says, I haven't read about the music change being Scott idea. The music is terrible. After 30 plus years, this season 5 music hasn't grown on me. It's so terrible. Shelf Fairy. Can't really argue with it.
I could see why you could feel the need to mix it up or refresh it. I just don't think that what they landed on was good.
Yeah. I agree with you.
You know, if maybe they were seeing a dip in numbers or they were getting pressure to up their numbers and they're like, well, maybe we need to get some new music that might catch new viewers as they're flipping through the channels.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that maybe they told them that people don't realize it's like an action. There's a lot of action and adventure in it. And I think that, what'd you say?
Already. There was no need to kind of spruce it up. But so real fast, is this the final season of the show?
Yes, this is it.
Yes.
Okay.
Season 5 is the final season.
So I think this is when shows start to kind of wanting to mix things up, change things. I call it the Fred Freiberger effect. When you get a very good, first couple of seasons, then all of a sudden a new producer comes in to change things up because he doesn't want to see what we've already seen, and then he kind of ends up screwing things over.
It's kind of like the Cousin Oliver effect as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So in any case, it starts off and then Al is in the waiting room. Again, I feel like we're seeing too much of this waiting room. I like the idea that there's a waiting room. I don't know how much I wanted to see it. In any case, he asks...
and what was the point? I mean, we're seeing... I guess we're seeing the battle of the minds, Sam and Lee Harvey, Oswald, from different perspectives. But what is it why are we in that room for the most part?
I can explain it to you. Okay. First of all, more font gate, because fonts just come and go here. There's so many fonts. But I think that what's happening is, and this is what we were talking about, because this is more of a documentary about Lee Harvey Oswald based on Donnie P's acquaintance with him and him serving on the same base with him, he's trying to force it into a Quantum Leap shell. And the only way he can do that is to continue to explain that they've occupied each other's minds. Now, he had two options. One, to just keep showing Sam not controlling Oswald and just doing nothing to stop him. Or they could go back and add a little bit of intrigue that, like, he's in Sam, Sam's in him, kind of back and forth. In essence, he's just masking the issue, in my opinion. He's like masking a storytelling issue by doing this. That's the way I see it. And then here he knows the stuff with time travel suddenly. And he sounds like Sam. So Al realizes like that, there's real trouble here with the way they've shifted. Mm-hmm. And then again, this white font, and we're in Russia with the guy from Spider-Man and MacGyver. And Sam now is Oswald. Basically, he's not Sam. He's just sitting here as Oswald, just giving them the information. And we're witnessing what Donnie P wants us to see. So he gives them some information about race car, which was an airplane, like a secret airplane. And he knows a lot of stuff about it, supposedly, and he tells them. But then, after a few moments of this, like, futzing around, at the end, and Al shows up. He's like, Sam, don't tell him anything. Zip it, Sam. And he's like, well, the frequencies are 2.8, 218.2. And all this other stuff.
Turns out that he was all the info was wrong, no?
Well, I mean, the thing is, once he gets up and leaves, what happens is that the lady's like, hey, some of this info isn't exactly the info that we have. Mm-hmm. But even though it's not the info that they had, it wasn't like 100%. Like they said 20,000 feet. He said 30,000 feet. So that he was off by a few things. Maybe he's not like in that aircraft every second. Mm-hmm. So it's implied that they already knew that stuff, that he's not really bringing them any real important data here. And then he goes here, I doubt that he knows much. And then when he leaves, Al's like, Sam, why didn't you give him that? And he's like, I couldn't stop him. And then when he starts talking to himself, these Russian chaperones are not sure who he's talking to. He's like, I talked to myself. And then he says, oh, so does my grandmother, but she's 83. In any case, they're here. They're talking about what's going on here. And
I just kind of like what we were talking about earlier. This is even saying, oh yeah, he tried to defect to the Russians, but he's just so unimportant that even though, yes, he was this person, he didn't harm us in any way because like he didn't have any, like it just really seems like they're trying to really show that this guy's pathetic in every which way.
yes, I agree. I was looking at this comment. I still get a kick of Al telling Sam to write it backwards when race car spelled backwards is race car. That is kind of funny. I didn't notice that.
Mm-hmm.
And Marla Sherendorf says if they wanted it to start in 1999, then last season's current time should have been 1998. That tells me Sam wasn't leaping for 5 years. It was just under 1 year. They've done a lot of strange things with that time stuff. Mary White says, plot hole.
True that.
I guess they're talking about the Brady Bunch. Maybe Tex Rogers wasn't aware of the Cousin Oliver effect. Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. So very true. One plot hole after another. Rose, she called you by your full name.
Very nice.
In any case, you made some good points too, Nick. Let's look at what this thing here is. So I think that this part he's acting like himself.
Do you guys feel like this 2-episode arc could have been just 1 episode?
Totally.
I was thinking the same thing. I would have preferred it because I would have preferred it to not exist. But
it would have gone down
with the
easier.
leaping around like they're doing, I think he made it so convoluted that they couldn't do it in 1 episode.
Yeah, it was too much back and forth for 2 episodes. It was like, is there a point here?
If they had done, and even with it being, I would have. What I thought they were going to do when we had the first one was they showed him close to the event, and then they boom and he goes back. And I thought the whole first episode was going to be him back, but they even leaped around a couple of times in that one.
Yeah.
This one, they have him leaping around all the time to all these different points in his life. It was very weird. It was just basically like, oh yeah, and in this year he was a horrible person too, and in this year he was a loser. And it's like it was none of it really added to the story.
Yeah.
It was just like, let's look on his life at this point in time. Yes, he was a loser then too. Which I'm not trying to defend this individual. Like obviously, if he did it or if he attempted to do it or whatever, he seems like he wasn't a good person. But it just feels like a very weird flex to just
I'll tell you
the way they presented it.
I'll tell you what the flex is, and this is where I think he really went astray, Donnie P. And Script mentioned it last time, and I agreed with him. This was Donald P. Belisario's answer to Oliver Stone's JFK movie. The thing is that like Oliver Stone or not, like his JFK movie or not, there's a few things going on there that Oliver Stone had to his advantage. And Oliver Stone is a weirdo. It's not that I'm thinking to myself that this guy on a personal level is great or that I'm his biggest fan of everything that he does. He's kind of out there, and I'm not like showering him with compliments, but at the same time, especially during those years, he knew how to write a screenplay for that type of movie that he was going for. His writing was pretty solid in some of those movies during those days, and the direction and how he directed that JFK movie was competent. Meaning, you may like what he did there, you may not like what he did there, but I think if anything, he at least brought up some interesting ideas as to why it could be a conspiracy. And I think that what he showed in the movie with the cast and with the type of production value and budgets that he had, he was able to put together a movie that was thought-provoking, even if you agreed with it or not. Now, Donald P. Belisario on a TV episodic show of that time budget really couldn't compete with that kind of movie that Oliver Stone probably spent a number of years putting together. He quickly wanted to put something to give him an answer. And I guess a lot of the things that were discussed in the movie about incidents with Oswald, about his history, about things like that, Donnie P wanted to give his take on it. And somehow it feels not only like the wrong venue, but like he didn't have the proper production and tools to even present this in a way that I think is compelling.
Agree completely.
I know I sound harsh. I'm usually not harsh with Donnie P. I know it, but I have to be honest. I can't lie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
I
almost
agree.
feels more like a Lee Harvey Oswald life story.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. He wanted to make a 2-hour movie called Harvey Oswald: The Untold Story, and he wanted to give it from his perspective, how he saw him. He met him before, and he wanted to give you his perspective. It's, as Ron Donofrio just wrote, shouldn't have tried, not right for Quantum Leap, but I guess I have to give one to Don B. Yeah, I call him Donnie P because he's Donald P. Belisario. But yeah, it's not the right it's not the right choice. I have so many good things to say about Donald P. Belisario. This is the one instance where I think that he really went astray, in my opinion. But in any case, this is the scene here in the bathroom. He's like, "Oh, Sam, the Russians want to kick you out because you don't have information. So you have to delete yourself." Al, I'm not going to delete myself. Yes, you have to, Sam.
This,
And then,
if I was already not into this episode, the fact that Al was encouraging this, that they were going to show this on, this is a show that's on at prime time, families are watching, and it just felt very inappropriate. Like there can be episodes where they say, well, he was going to commit suicide and you got to stop him from doing it or something, but this is like, you've got to do it. You just got to, cut your wrists and you got to do this motion. And you're like, I was just kind of shocked about it.
yes, I was too. But at least at this point, they did this thing, and like he fleeps now into April 10th, 1963. Remind me, why is he running around with a rifle here and a dog chasing him? I don't
This
even
scene
remember.
this scene was really weird because when he stops, he sees like another dog somewhere, and the shot, the way they filmed it was just very unclear. Like, where did this other dog come from? And then he jumps the fence, and it's like, well, are there two dogs? It made it seem like there were two dogs, or I couldn't get the scene.
It almost seemed like he was in his neighbor's yard, almost about to be attacked by the neighbor dog, and then he jumps the fence into his yard with his dog. And then the dogs are barking at each other. I was also very confused because I'm like,
Yeah.
wait a second, the dog just changed. Like I had to rewind back and like, did I miss something?
Yeah, this
It
was
didn't make
shot
sense.
really, really bad.
And that only
but he's
brings.
with a gun because he tried to shoot that other gentleman. So they're saying that like
Oh,
that
is
he
this
had
when he
a
tried to? What is this when he tried to assassinate the judge?
Something, yeah.
Okay.
It's not done clear enough, and like I said, between using a format that's not right for the documentary he wants to tell and his cheaper production value, this is a scene. I agree with what you said, Ro. This is exactly the type of scene where I was looking at it and I myself wasn't even sure what I was looking at. It wasn't done well enough. I 100% agree with you, and that's why I think that when you have a good show, you should stick to what you do. But again, I guess he earned the right after 5 seasons to do a vanity episode like this one.
Yeah, so odd.
I don't know how that happened. I'm moving it back and forth because, well, I can't really tell you, but well, I sort of can. I sort of can tell you. Uh, Sometimes I get sometimes our stream doesn't go under the radar when it comes to
Right.
us reviewing select scenes, if you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
Which I think is unfair, actually.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why, because generally speaking, especially if there's like an educational value or things like that, us dissecting a show from like decades ago, talking about the writing and the production of it, I would say that that is legitimately transformative. It's not that we're not just playing the episode. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're very much discussing and dissecting, even together with the chat. This is a discussion about writing, and about a lot of it is about writing and acting and performances and sort of reviews and evaluating.
Yeah.
I personally, I don't want to say anything negative about anybody, but when I get those type of notices, it makes me unhappy. Anyhow, he
And
comes back.
they're making money off of us because all of us are, watching it and in preparation for the show. So,
Absolutely. And also, it's a good thing to have out there when people do discover the show or watch it. I hear sometimes here we have somebody, Michelle, in this chat right now, and other people that eventually found us that were just looking for some Quantum Leap content or reviews or people talking about a certain episode, and then they found it, like
us.
Michelle Ferry recently, and then they're just like, okay, well, let's join the discussion. So.
And that's become part of my habit with rewatch shows, is that anytime I go to rewatch a show that I love, I start searching and trying to find a podcast like ours that goes episode by episode, because it's a way to engage, even if it's not necessarily a super active fandom, that, after the episode, you get to hear other people's take on that episode.
Bayona Rad said, I noticed that too. YouTube don't want people commentary about show, story, acting, directing. The thing is, I think that YouTube don't care one way or another. It's actually the people that sometimes own the copyright of the shows that suddenly pop up and they're like, oh, you're spending a lot of time watching this footage. And in some cases, I think that it's almost like a David versus Goliath situation, because I don't necessarily agree with them, but it's a bit complicated. In any case,
The other problem I would say is that YouTube enables people to use copyright claim bots that go through, and certain things trigger them. It's not necessarily the human looks at it and goes, oh yeah, that's really, giving away our thing, but they're trying to prevent people from uploading 5-minute clips of the show in a playlist so that you can watch the show for free. But sometimes those bots can then claim things that shouldn't be claimed.
I agree with you. They do have a lot of strange things going on, but it is what it is. I can't criticize the platform that we're on. They have their own things that they do, and hopefully over time some of these companies will be a little more lenient. In any case,
For what they give us, it's amazing.
Yes, and then right now, remind me, because this I was kind of already it lost my concentration here. She we discover here that she actually is unhappy that he's doing all this stuff. She's against him wanting to, take out people that he doesn't like, their political opinions.
She's like, you can't assassinate people just for their political views.
Right.
Which actually hit kind of hard in 2025.
Right.
Yeah. This is exactly, you can't shoot people because you disagree with their politics. It's unfortunate how relevant this is. If there is anything relevant in this episode that can, Donnie P can get like 1 point in the columns of points versus all the minuses we gave him, is that this is still a relevant topic, very relevant for right now.
Can I put up Michelle's comment real fast, because I think that's really nice of her.
I think you may need to raise your volume. Maybe I'm wrong. I feel like
or
your
talk
volume is
closer.
a bit low.
I think I was over here. How about now?
I think it's okay now.
Yeah. But thank you, Michelle, for that. She says, I'm so glad I found you all. There isn't much Quantum Leap podcasts out there. I've been catching up with old and enjoying Price figuring out how to pronounce Lisa's last name. Yeah. I think we were trying to do that for the first 2 seasons.
It took a while until she told us how to say it. Until now, I don't even know if I'm saying it correctly. But yeah. Matthew Marceau, then music is what gets copyright claim. I don't know. Music does too, but
Sure.
we don't use the audio, so
Right.
it kind of disappoints me that, sometimes we get stuff, but it is what it is. Well, you don't. Did you think of Junie and me? And then he's kind of losing it. And Al's like, Sam, snap out of it.
From this point on, Sam is sweaty throughout the rest of the episode. Sweaty and swarthy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess that was their way of showing that he's like no longer in control of his mind or
Right.
whatever it is.
And there's Junie.
And then this was her notes or something?
You know what would have made this episode a little better?
What?
And they did a little bit in the start, but having Al constantly going over the crockpot theories, and go really out there, because that seems like a thing Al would do. Like Al would be like super into this, and as far as like JFK theories, and they it felt in the first half like it was leaning that way.
Mm-hmm.
But other than saying a couple of theories, well, that was one theory. And then, and Sam goes, I thought you said it was, and he says, well, there's also a theory, but they don't really show him getting excited about it or hypothesizing or when he sees a clue going, oh, this leads to this. Like, I felt like that could have brought some levity that this episode desperately needed.
There were certainly a lot of things that could have been done here. And I think that one of the parts that the reasons why it doesn't work is I also feel there's something of a rush job here. This wasn't an episode that you could just do like, hey, let's do a 2-parter about this, unless you really thought it out. Unless there's something that you're really trying to accomplish here, I don't think this was good. I would have liked it maybe, like I said, I think we talked about it last week. Sam leaps into a guy that has nothing to do with Kennedy, but he suddenly remembers that Kennedy is going to get deleted, and he's going off. Instead of doing his real mission, he's trying to also do something to try to stop this murder. And maybe he runs into Oswald. He's trying to do something, and we see that kind of dilemma of how he handles it, which by the end of it, probably the outcome is that he can't stop the murder. He can't do it, and he has to do his job. And maybe he's so close, but at the end something happens and it wasn't meant to be, and it's something that he has to come to terms with. At least I can somehow accept that. But as him trying to change history but not being able to because it's a bigger history than what he's allowed to change. Right. That could have been an interesting conversation within the show. But just to have him be Oswald all the time, and Oswald has captured his mind and Al's just walking around saying, Sam, snap out of it. It's just like it's kind of weak. So I mean, like I think Lisa said it last time, or a few other people that, and I think Mary White said it, that he does give a really good performance, Scott Bakula. You could tell that he's game, and he 100%, is into whatever role he's being asked to do here. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it doesn't matter sometimes how good an actor is or how seriously he takes it. This was an interesting scene that some lady is like talking to him and he writes her name down. I assume that perhaps him writing the name down and the name maybe came up in the JFK Oliver Stone movie or in one of those committees, those kind of Warren Commission or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So,
well, it was the thing that's what his wife calls him. Remember, because in the first episode, I was this guy's name, and Al was like, oh, that's what he used to go by, or
right. There's like an
so it's
alias.
like a name. that separates him from his legal name. But
Maybe in the other things, people were saying that the reason that there's a few names is that there's a few people, and here he's trying to establish that it's not a few names and a few different people. It's one guy using different names. Because, like I said, he's really trying to bring his point home that this is not a conspiracy of any kind. And
what was really weird was this lady. Okay, she was very much like disgusted by his thing at first, but I guess she thinks he's cute or something because she's going on, and then she gets really upset when she realizes he's married. So she's not okay with communists, but like maybe she'd hook up and marry one.
I got this one. I know exactly what happened here. First of all, Lisa Katrine says this lady looks so familiar. She does look very familiar. And Marla Sharondoff Scott puts everything he is into everything he does. I agree. Yeah. What I will say is this, is that women, not the ones in this chat, not the ones that we're talking about, because I think that there's a lot of great women in our chat. Okay.
Price of Reason doesn't speak for the rest of the.
I want to get that out of the way, that there are great women in our chat and in watching our streams. There are, however, women that I've met in life that sometimes a guy that's sort of bad news or like a troublemaker type of guy, they find that interesting. The fact that he's sitting around here kissing like Castro's ass, this woman feels like, oh, this guy's a bit different. He's dangerous. And some women are into this. Some women, but I've grown up. I can tell you that I grew up and there were ladies that absolutely they would go out with the douchiest person. And of course, not you, Lisa.
Price, I think there's a little difference between he's got a Harley and a tattoo, kind of bad boy, and
Okay, you know what?
Favorably political, I mean, because she seems politically. Because let's put it in perspective of today, okay? If and you can flip it whichever way you want, but let's say one of these individuals has blue hair, and they're peddling what they want, and the other person comes up, are they gonna like, oh, but is he single? Or are they going to move on? And you can put it whichever way. She's very much like, that's just not how it is. Like, she's very much, at first, like, she's offended and she's arguing with him. And then she's like, well, but do you have social events? Because, maybe more people would be interested in your cause if you had social events. I was like, that is such a weird turn.
Yeah,
we've seen so many in the past few years, especially younger people or college students go for these strange causes, sometimes causes that you wouldn't think that a sane person, things that are like, you support that cause, you're supporting people that actually don't like you or your country. We've seen things like that in recent years, and I don't want to get too political. And sometimes, especially this young lady here, maybe she found that somewhat, interesting or attractive. There are women like this. I said it absolutely before I spoke, that I'm not saying that all women are like this. And there's a lot of great women that have great character, and they're all in this chat. But
I just don't buy that this woman is that way because of how she initially reacted. Usually people who are like that, she would have started the conversation differently, in my mind.
I guess.
Because
I hope that Lisa Katrine didn't run away. I feel like that was the last straw for Lisa Katrine. She's like,
I just feel like
I think she's vanished. In any case, I agree with you with one thing, that like the fact that she liked this Castro guy and at the end she saw the ring and that's what made her leave. That's kind of silly, because if you're already like a mess and you're just a weirdo, then you would like him even if he had his ring. You know what I mean? Like, it's the ring that suddenly deterred her from continuing to pursue him.
Mm-hmm. Communism was fine, but the ring is like, oh.
Right. The ring is where she draws the line. The commie Castro thing, that was all great. As long as he didn't have a ring.
Even though everything she said was that wasn't great.
Right. It is a bit strange, but the bottom line is again, Donnie P wants to show you this scene because this scene was talked about in the JFK movie, from what I remember. This is a known thing of him handing out these pamphlets. I guess they just wanted to address it somehow. This was his way of doing it. And this is the part where, they end up arresting him or whatever it is. I think this is also addressed in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, he's still, controlled by Oswald.
Yeah.
And I was like, Sam. And then you have this November 21st, 1963 in Dallas, Texas.
The night before.
The night before, yeah, we're already getting closer.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually an opportunity for Sam to stop him. If he had assaulted the officer, got himself imprisoned.
True.
No.
You know what? And that's another issue with this episode, because when you're doing something where there's some lady that vanished and he's finding her before she gets kidnapped, people don't know what happened in the real history, so you can convince them that whatever ripple effect it had was a positive thing and everything is great. But once you have a situation like this and you know how everything ends, it all doesn't make sense. I mean, yeah, there were so many things that Sam could have done here, and he doesn't really do anything. But this, you really brought up a good point. This is a major plot hole. He could have just gotten himself arrested.
And he could have leaned into it. He could have let the guy kind of take over. Instead of holding himself back at that moment and being nice, he could have,
punched the cop. Yeah.
punched the cop or done something like that. Or, at any point he could have walked into a mental institution and, told someone, hey, I'm gonna assassinate the president, and they would have locked him up.
Exactly. There were so many things he could have done, but I guess they're trying to show that he wasn't in control anymore. I don't know, man. It's again, this thing continuously doesn't really work, and you gave just another example. And let's go to reel number 2, as people say, like the real change. And now we have this thing that he's sitting at home, I guess, watching the Kennedy speak.
Mm-hmm.
And then and he's imagining himself with the rifle. Yeah. We choose to go to the moon. In any case, I don't even know if that's what he's saying here. I wish Script was here to do the Boston accent, because I'm not good at the Boston accent.
Oh, yeah.
In any case, again, Sam is already controlled by him, and he sees his daughter and his wife, and he's kind of saying goodbye to them. His daughters, I guess, saying goodbye to them, putting his wedding ring away and doing all that stuff, preparing his rifle.
No, his curtain rods.
His curtain rod, yeah. And then this guy shows up, like, to take him to work. And he's like, hey, what you got in back over there? Oh, just my curtain rod. Like, he didn't think it was strange or anything. Maybe that's what happened in real life. I don't know. In any case, this is also an interesting thing, because we don't see Gushy every day. And it's kind of annoying that they brought him just for this thing to establish that it's not a conspiracy theory. He's like, you want to think that it's a conspiracy theory because you don't think that one sicko can do it, but it's just one sicko. That's the facts. It's like, it was very much preaching here.
Yeah, and you know what? I think I actually like the line that Al says. If Kennedy was able to be killed by one man, what does that mean for the rest of us? I kind of like that line.
I mean, I liked it in isolation, but because I know what the real agenda here is, I think that it's just kind of, everything seems very heavy-handed.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're watching this.
It's funny because in my mind, I think about it, I'm just surprised that presidents aren't assassinated all the time. I mean, I know that there's a group of people that go into a lot of effort to make sure that doesn't happen, but
thankfully, yes.
The last couple of presidents, I mean, and I'm talking the last a handful, have been very controversial. We live in an information age where everything is so divisive. People are riled up, and it's both sides. I've got family on both sides of the matter, and like hearing them talk, like they wake up in the morning and one of them even says like, "Oh, there wasn't a shooting this morning," talking about the president. And it's like when you hear stuff like that, it amazes me that we don't have it happen more often.
I agree with you, but I'm happy that we don't have it more often
Right.
because that's a
Yeah.
good thing. That's just to clarify. Robnot Skubla says, do you think the government had some influence on this episode? You know what? Stranger things have happened. I'm not saying that they did. It feels like very much a Donnie P situation.
Yeah, I don't
But I
think
will
so.
say that it's not completely unheard of that some kind of government maybe would nudge somebody. Also, a lot of these type of Hollywood people, they sometimes hang out in the same place, same circles as politicians and things. It could also been not an official nudge. It could be that Donnie P goes to a cocktail party. There happens to be some kind of government person there that happens to be at the cocktail party. They're talking. He's telling him, "No, I met the guy. He's this and that. Yeah, oh, that would be great if you did an episode." Meaning, I'm not sure that the White House called and said, "Hey, Donnie, can you do this?" It's more of a synergy, or I don't know what word I'm looking for, but I think Ro understands what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But all that said, because there's so much different stuff out there, I think if the government was actively trying to incentivize or truly push a narrative, we would see more uniformity on that. And I think they're happy with us having complete confusion about it, whoever's responsible.
Well, Marks for Seven says, I tend to believe that he was removed because he was going to come forward about UFOs and because he told Marilyn Monroe during their pillow talk. I think that it's something different. This is just my personal opinion. Kennedy wasn't he was sort of against the grain. He came in and he did things that rubbed a lot of different groups the wrong way. And in politics, when there's a number, not even politics, when you start surrounding yourself by a bunch of different enemies, you'd be surprised how maybe some of these enemies at the end, however unlikely, I don't know if to say however unlikely bedfellows or whatever you want to call it, can suddenly join forces to remove that one threat. When it comes to these kind of government people, he wasn't doing what some of these longtime politicians expected. He was this guy that kind of came from a different place, different perspective. He was different, and they didn't like what he was doing, and he wasn't playing their game. When it comes to criminals and the stuff that him and his brother were doing to try to take out certain organized crime, what they were focusing on, that also built them a bunch of enemies. When it comes to more like those kind of, I don't know if to call them deep state or whatever, there were certain things going on that also he didn't seem to listen. He wanted to do things his own way. I'm not saying that any of that is a justified reason to kill him. I think that if you don't like a prime minister or a president or anything like that, once there's elections, vote for somebody else. I mean, at the end, that's why you have elections and that's why you vote. I don't agree with the fact that you just delete your head of state because there's something that he said that you didn't like or whatever it is. That's obviously wrong in a democracy. But all I'm saying is that he made himself a lot of enemies, and at the end, when you have too many enemies, you may find yourself in a complicated situation. And I also think that it's not a coincidence that his brother ended up in a strange situation as well. In both cases, they quickly found the lone person that did it, and there were explanations and stories as to why it happened. And in both cases, to me, it seemed a bit fishy. Same way that also, Martin Luther King seemed fishy to me. I'm even going to go on a limb here, and this may be, not everybody would agree with me. I tend to think that maybe even John F. Kennedy was a bit fishy, but you never know. Not John F. Kennedy. John Lennon, I mean, was a bit fishy. Although maybe the least fishy out of all of these, because John Lennon, it could have been a wacky fan, I guess. Although it was a very fishy wacky fan, but it could have been one.
Ronald Reagan, wacky fan.
Ronald Reagan, the guy that okay, I probably shouldn't say this, and I'm not saying anything. I don't know anything. I could be wrong about everything, and I'm probably wrong, and I don't know what I'm talking about. But the father of the guy that shot Reagan, very, I think I don't know, a few weeks or days earlier, the father happened to have lunch with George H.W. Bush. Why did the guy that tried to kill that guy have his father lunch with the other guy? Now, we've been told that this is a coincidence, and that's fine. Maybe it is a coincidence. I'm just saying that statistically, it's a surprising meeting.
True that.
But strange things have happened in the world. You have lunch with a guy, and his son then does the thing. I mean,
yeah, we're losing text, by the way.
why? What did text say?
Let's see. Where's text?
Starting in 1840, every president elected in a year in a zero died in office until Ronald Reagan broke the chain. Are we losing text though?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Sorry, text.
Sorry, text. But it was part of this thing. It's I mean, it's relevant to the context of the episode because the whole thing that Donnie P wanted to do was to explain there's no conspiracy. And I was kind of saying that sometimes there is a conspiracy. That's all I was trying to say. Now, I don't know, maybe in some cases you think there's a conspiracy and maybe there wasn't one. I'm not saying that can't happen either. I'm saying that I just don't know.
I have a question for the panel.
Sure.
I think this scene, do you guys feel like Al was completely out of character by threatening the person that's in this room?
It's a very empty and hollow threat because that's Sam's body in front of him. He's not going to blow Sam's brains out.
Yeah.
Lisa Katrine is happy the text got us moving on. What was it? Was it the strange conspiracy? Specifically, what was it that chased everybody away here? Was it me asking about the thing with Reagan? It was a question. I don't know.
Probably, yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean to stir up things. In any case, yeah, I mean, it was an empty threat, like you said, but he had to do something.
He did fire it though, which firing a weapon indoors,
sure,
not a wise thing to do.
True. So here we have Sam loading up the thing.
I'll
Sam
accept
is
that.
Oswald.
I'll accept that, Mary. People just want to get this episode over with.
He's trying to.
And we've talked about a few times before about the stock footage in other episodes, and in this one it's kind of really jarring because it's going from the street footage to him back and forth quite a bit here.
Yeah, I wonder why they just didn't shoot their own footage just to kind of make it match instead of using.
I would have liked, but that is again. That is the difference between the JFK of Oliver Stone and this one. Oliver Stone actually did recreate the whole grassy knoll thing, and he started filming himself all these different angles in addition to the stock footage. And what was brilliant is the way he sort of used his footage interspliced with the stock footage was very impressive. Again, I'm not saying that Donnie P couldn't have done better than this, but this is obviously a TV production. TV productions, usually you got a week for every episode. Oliver Stone probably worked on his movie for years. So you're not going to get the same result.
Sure.
Maybe, considering how rushed this job was, some of it was not terrible. Here they tried to do a little bit of that. Yeah. I think this is legitimately not stock footage. I don't even know. Who knows? Maybe it is.
Yeah, maybe it is, and they just put this, the crosshair filter over it to make it,
It's possible.
Yeah.
Anyhow, as he's looking at it, he leaps out, and whatever Oswald leaps back. Now he's this security guy.
Secret Service.
Secret Service, yeah. And he does this. He's Al tries to stop him, but he can't. And he does the shot. And then next thing you know, I guess Sam is this, whatever, he jumps to save like Jackie or whatever it is.
So this is where my question comes into play here, and I think this, I guess this kind of sets a precedent for the show, or kind of a change. So this whole entire episode, are we saying that Sam was there to change the future like he usually does in all the other episodes, but the future that he's changing is Lee Harvey Oswald was originally going to kill Jackie Kennedy, and he did stop it, and therefore he did change the future? Is because it seemed like it was almost like an alternative universe situation where, we know that Lee Harvey Oswald killed Kennedy because Sam went there to change the future, because otherwise it would have been Jackie. Is that what this episode was trying to say?
Said it would have been
Yes.
both. He said it would have been both. So the history that we know, or we believe to be true history, by the logic of the show, Sam and Al are the only people that are aware of the changes. So they knew a different history where she died too.
Okay.
Whether that was 2 shots or 1 shot went through, because it looked like Kennedy went down and then he hopped on her. So
Yeah.
I guess maybe he was going to fire a second shot or and hit her. But
See, yeah,
our history that we know is the history he created, and maybe before this event we believed the other history, but because it's been changed now, we don't. We know what we know.
It seems like this is not the first time that he has leaped into Lee Harvey Oswald to try and stop something, because I think Al says something, it could be because of your Swiss cheese memory, but the last time he killed Kennedy, and then so that's what made me believe, like, I think in essence it was to me, and Nick, you can kind of chime in here because I know you're a Doctor Who fan. This was like very Doctor Who ish story wise when it comes to time travel,
In one of the first things, they show that Eccleston actually stood in the crowd of the JFK shooting, which was an odd thing, in my opinion, to attribute to the Doctor just going there to be an observer.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where, like, this feels very different from the rules and the tone that the Quantum Leap has set of kind of doing these minor changes. But it also, this is something, maybe I'm going to open a can of worms here, but I get upset when, and I think we talked about this on a previous episode.
Ooh,
when
we got a special guest. But go on, Nick.
Oh, okay. I said I get upset when, like, ministers or ones trying to explain things away go, "Oh, this tragedy was part of God's plan," or something like that. That's literally what the show's implying here, that God intended for JFK to get shot, but this other person not to be. It is kind of the ending moral lesson here, and it really upsets me when people kind of give those hollow words that don't have any meaning and try to say that God intended this horrible thing to happen to you. And so I kind of look at this, and since they're thinking that God is helping them leap and everything going on with this, then was that his mission then, not to save the president? Is there a reason why that's important? They don't establish why that's important that happened. There could be ways you could write in that, it united the nation, or it did, but they don't go into any of that. They just kind of, no, you were here to save her.
I agree with you, Nick. This is really a problem, and I don't like the fact that it's sort of a cheat code. Michelle Ferry says this was the worst episode of Quantum Leap. I'm glad we're done with this one. It's sort of it's like using a cheat code that it's like, oh, remember Jackie? She wasn't supposed to be here, but now she is. Good work, Sam. And it's like, we know history. We know this is a bunch of nonsense. This is not how this show works. But since Script is here, I want to hear, we've talked about it, I want to hear some of Script's thoughts since he didn't have the whole hour to speak. What do you think of this episode?
Well, my apologies. I was in a meeting for the last hour, so I didn't know if I was going to make it, but I'm glad I was able to show up. So this episode is very much a Dom Belisario vanity episode. And I think that is what kind of hurts what this episode does, because it does break a bunch of rules. Heck, it even contradicts itself, because the season 4 premiere, when Sam and Al have switched spots, Al says that it's September of 1999, yet when we flash to the present in this episode, it's April 1999. So we're already out of continuity again with the current year versus Sam's leaping around. So there's that aspect too.
You could possibly wave that away in that Sam and Al aren't experiencing things in the exact same order.
Could, but the thing is, they reference that sleep swap in this episode, and
oh yeah,
two-parter, and it's like, so Al is, this version of Al is in the past, but he knows about the leap swap that technically happens in the future, according to the continuity of the show, which started to change around season 4, because it went from, instead of it being 5 years into the future of air date, it was initially alluded to being 10 years. So now, like, a lot of stuff is all screwed up. Yeah, like, the reason this episode doesn't work so well is that it doesn't have a goal, and it has a conflict, which is that Sam is leaping through various parts of time, getting closer and closer to the ultimate event, but it's chaotic in its nature, and it's only thing it's doing is it's just being a very obvious voice of Dom Belisario trying to share the world who Lee Harvey Oswald was, how unstable he was, and basically how Oliver Stone's interpretation should not be taken seriously. Like, it's literally a fight between two artists using the mediums that they have at their disposal. And I think it's coming at the expense of some great talent on the screen and some charitable liberties with the story itself.
A pissing contest between two directors, like the sequel trilogy?
Yes,
Right.
very much so.
But Script, what I was telling them before you arrived is that however you may feel about Oliver Stone, his movie or whatever it is, but Oliver Stone had like probably years to make that movie, and the production value of it is good. And like it or not, I think he does something interesting when it comes to what he's trying to present there, splicing new footage along with the stock footage and kind of tying it to his cast and crew and everything that's going on there. Donald P. Belisario, it looks like this is a rush job. I mean, on a network TV show with these budgets, there's no way you could compete with whatever Oliver Stone did there. So this just looks like a silly gimmick that he's trying to force it on a show that it's not even right for.
Well, it's a gimmick, but it's of Dom Belisario's point of view that there was no conspiracy, no greater conspiracy to assassinate JFK. It was just the lone gunman. And that's what he's trying to convey through this episode, set of episodes. And of course, we know for a fact right now with recently that there's a lot more evidence to suggest that there was more than one person involved, especially with the papers being released, granted many of them redacted still. But we got more information today than we had 30 years ago. And there's definitely more questions to be raised. And yeah, this point here is just Don saying, "Nope, I knew Lee Harvey Oswald. He was a whack job. He was the lone gunman for this. He did all this on his own. No one else was involved. How dare you say that, or how dare you imply that? This is how it is, and I'm using my television show about leaping through time to do that. And then I'm going to also break my principal rule, which is having Sam directly affect the life of a living historical figure, which he'd always do something indirectly, like, Michael Jackson meeting Michael Jackson, and doing the little dance there, meeting the songwriter for Peggy Sue, whose name is escaping me at the moment,
Buddy Holly.
Yeah.
The subtle things, very subtle things that could have happened any other way, But this one is specifically Sam leaps into a Secret Service agent who then rushes to cover puts his body out to cover Jackie Kennedy, and of course the Harvey stops shooting and then tries to escape.
Yeah, they're throwing a lot of stuff here. The Stephen King,
Dr. Heimlich. Well, Stephen King was more of a dream type of thing, if I'm not mistaken. But yes,
no, but it was him.
it was
I
him.
guess.
And then of
Donald
course
Trump,
Chubby Checkers, Donald Trump, and like all subtle stuff. Not something that's so definitive as literally I made this person who died in history live.
Yeah,
like,
I think
significant person who died in history live. Yeah,
I agree.
And this is the kind of thing that a lot of it has to do with the established show. And a lot of the problems that I had with episodes last season was because things felt out of place in Quantum Leap. They were really definitely trying to shake up the formula. In an episode, of course, like if it was an episode of Doctor Who, it would have been aliens that did it. But they'd play fast and have all these liberties, but that's kind of what you would expect from a show like Doctor Who. It does stuff like that all the time. Whereas Quantum Leap takes stuff so much more seriously, despite the fact that there's this amazing device of Quantum Leap. Everything else in the show pretty much works on how we know reality. Al's got the hand link, and sometimes he can do a little bit with there, but Sam isn't reversing the polarity and waving some magical tool, or they work with reality. And so the moment you start breaking that illusion and you start messing with history that it kind of breaks the whole show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I prefer, it's like everybody here in the chat. It's just an episode that was done. I think everybody it's not their favorite episode. It's not one that I think it gets revisited a lot. And we all know, we see it for what it is. I'm able to just look past it. Kind of like, there used to be comedy shows and then they'd have like a very special episode. And then later you try to forget that very special episode. This, for me, is something along those lines. I prefer not to think about it again.
Yep. It's I would say it is sadly one of the bottom 10 episodes of Quantum Leap that we've reviewed so far. And the fact that it's done by the creator of Quantum Leap just stings a little bit more.
It does. Ron Donofero says worst episode, still better than Woke Quantum Leap. Yes, as much as this thing isn't great, I still like it better than the new Quantum Leap, even this one. It's not really saying much, but that's the truth. Lisa Katrine, I recently watched The Color of Truth, can honestly say that show definitely had a decline in quality in season 4 and 5.
I think it's trickier in season 4 because it did start off really strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, season 4, I think, had highs and lows. It was uneven. There were some great ideas. Even season 5, I like some of the swinging to for the fences that they do, just not always. I want to bring here a super chat from the Dead Man. High price, have to work at 7 a.m. Buy price. The Dead Man, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I'm really, really grateful. It's very, very kind of you. You don't get punished if you have to go to work or something. Like, first of all, I appreciate the super chat, but I'm saying, we understand that, and we're happy that you even stopped by, and we appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
I would say this, that starting with the ending of season 2, beginning of season 3, the season enders, beginners of the last couple of seasons have always been real strong, and they've been something to look forward to. The ending episode of season 4 we liked, but we did say it was out of character for Al. It kind of handled Al's youth, with him being potentially, put to death for murder.
Mhm.
that whole investigation. The Al was a little out of character. This is really off, and I don't know if I would have reacted as negatively if this was in the middle of the season, but as the opener, as we've gotten closer to the end of season 4, beginning of season 5, I've been looking forward to, because each season they do kind of a really build up our character special episode, and this one, to have these 2 episodes in my bottom 5 is a big disappointment.
Yeah.
And I know we talk about, we like it at least when sometimes the stories kind of swing for the fences. This one kind of swung for the fences, but it totally did not work at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what can you do? It came from the wrong place for the wrong reasons, and it's a waste of a season opener, and it's unfortunate. Ron Donofrio says, Nick, you're pixelating, but it is what it is. Thankfully, I think that the next episode is the next one the one with Brooke Shields?
I heard it was, yes.
Yes,
Someone in
I
the
think
chat
so.
early on said it was.
Which is
Okay,
funny because her and Terry Farrell kind of looked very similar. They could have played sisters.
True. So at least, as a follow-up to this thing, Brooke Shields, I think, is a nice change of pace.
Yeah,
I do
too. Sorry, it's late for me.
Yeah, I like the whole idea of that one, but we'll get to that one next time. This is good. It's a nice change of pace. It's going to be an interesting episode to discuss the Brooke Shields one next time. And then, I guess before we go, let me just make sure everybody has everybody's links here. So you guys talk a little bit, and I'll find these links.
Okay, so my crazy JFK theory is, in the future when time travel is possible, some Swiftie listens to way too much of to the Kennedy breakup album, and they go back in time and they assassinate Kennedy.
I think it was aliens.
I think someone actually went back in time to try and prevent it and just made things worse.
So Malachi D. Wildman says it's interesting concepts with poor execution.
Yeah.
It's got too much of a gimmick, and it's definitely the type of thing you'd air during sweeps, because there was a period between right after JFK where a lot of shows, I think even the new Twilight Zone did something with Lane Smith where he became JFK and was shot instead, or swapped spots with him. And then, oh God, I remember it pretty vividly, but I could be Mandela effect or something. But I do remember in the early 90s, there's a lot of things on television that was making commentary on the JFK assassination. And I think probably because it was like the 30-year anniversary of it.
This is Rose Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast link. If you're not subscribed already, you should do it. I put it in the chat.
And I think unbeknownst to me recently, because of everyone in the chat, I hit 500 subscribers. Woohoo!
Ooh, congrats.
That's nice. You know, that is enough for you to do a request, if you know what I'm saying.
No, I don't.
Do you not know what I'm saying?
I'll have to look it up. A request? Like lounge music?
No, I'll explain it to you after.
Are you talking about on YouTube or podcast wise?
No, podcast he has significantly more. He's saying on the YouTube channel he got it. But on the YouTube he got it. But YouTube, once you have 500, there's things that you can request, like things open up that weren't there before on your account.
That's nice.
I just put in the script doctor also. You should definitely subscribe to that as well. And in addition, I'm now going to find Nick's, who finally, you're the real deal now, Nick.
Yes.
For years, you had a completely different name.
Yeah.
I know, from a defunct channel.
Right. So now I'm happy that it's the real deal now. Now I'm going to share Nick's link. And I'll highlight it as well.
I'm going to have to send you another mug.
I think he was
I
talking
gotta-
to you, Nick.
Yeah, he's been talking to me about sending me one. We got somebody else we got to figure out how to send one to. But yeah, as far as going on my channel, I keep having things. It's been too busy and too hot, but I want to do a breakdown of the good and the bad of the current Sonic DC crossover comics. It was cringe this month.
Okay.
Okay, shout outs, part 1. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate it so much that you do this. Shout outs, part 1. Tex Rogers, Caleb Levine, Ron Donofero, Matthew Marcillo, Michelle Ferry, Lisa Katrine, Marla Sharondoff, Storm King, Boosh McFadden, and then shout outs, part 2. Bayona Rad, Mur Rockstra, FKHC 2005, Rob Nut Scubla, Marks for 7, The Dead Man, and thank you for the $20 super chat, The Dead Man. And of course, Price, Rowe, Nick, and Script. And then, yes, there's Malachi D. Wildman as well. And we did see him. Great seeing everybody here. And I guess if you guys have any final comments or something to say, guys. If not, then I guess
I'm glad it's over.
everybody wanted to get through this one.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I know it was 2 episodes and it wasn't the most pleasant thing to go through, but this is what we do here. We have to go in episode, and we don't cut corners. Unlike Donnie P with this episode, we don't cut corners.
And that's the JFK conspiracy aficionado saying that.
So this
No
is
more-
Ron
no,
Unfair.
we
This is why
promise.
conspiracy theories have no interest for me. You can make up anything insane, and some people will follow you.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. I guess.
True.
Thank you, Price of Reason Live panel, and of course, chat friends. Thank you to everybody. Everyone hit like. I agree.
No
And
more. No more Ronald Reagan talk.
Could you imagine Sam leaping into like a flat earther convention?
Shelfery, have a great week. I'm looking forward to next week. I am sorry if I annoyed people with my Ronald Reagan thoughts. All I did was say something that was true, and has always seemed like a strange coincidence. That's all I said. I didn't say anything more. Just stated the fact.
You missed it earlier when Price had to start a statement by saying, "I know this isn't true of the women in our chat."
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there was some
I
interesting
knew whatever
comments.
came next was going to be bad when he said that.
I wasn't annoyed, Mary White. Thank you, Ron and Affair. You were not annoying. Thank you. It's always good to not be annoying. Have a great week. I'm looking forward to next week. Nice to see you, Michelle Ferry. And I guess on a positive note, we're going to put on our outro music. Thank you to everybody. We'll see you here next week. And next week, better, more upbeat next week, I think will be. All right. Bye.
I'm such an awesome guy.